Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Early Edge. It is a very, very good Wednesday, especially for Dustin Wiles, who in the chat says, "Hey, family, wife is currently 2.5 centimeters dilated. Keep us in your prayers, please." And I know I still couldn't miss the show. Dustin Wiles is having a baby. Everybody wish him well wishes and a congratulations. And I happen to know the baby's name is going to be Denver Blake. So what a great way to start the show. Of course, this show is brought to you by BetMGM, the sports book born in Vegas. And before we bring in the stars of the show, we got to see how we did yesterday. 4-4, but interesting 4-4 because we've got the plus 145 courtesy of Mike McClure and the plus 120 from Larry Hartstein. So we did make a few bucks, and I do emphasize a few bucks. It wasn't actually a losing day. We won a couple of bucks here, but 4-4, certainly nothing to celebrate. By the way, Mikey B has been on an absolute tear. So really big time credit to Mikey B, one of the most profitable guys at SportsLine in 2025. Let's bring in some more profitable guys, shall we? We got AMags, we got Mike McClure, and we've got Zack Cimini up and early in Vegas. Zack, I'm going to start with you. This is going to be a heavy baseball day. We got AMags and Mike McClure giving out baseball picks. We got guys in the chat giving out baseball picks, some hockey picks in the chat. But you're here for the NBA. Tell me, how's the NBA slate looking today? Any big-time games? I know you have a prop later in the show.
I've just got a prop for now. I'm going to focus on both baseball and the NBA board later in the day. But yesterday, yeah, it was great action in MLB. The Diamondbacks came back and got the win. Was able to do the show with you guys yesterday. So we talked about a lot of baseball topics yesterday. And then college basketball still going on. I know we've got some degenerates that love to bet the Crown Invitational. And the NIT was actually great yesterday. Irvine came back from a big deficit against North Texas. Chattanooga yesterday against Loyola Chicago. That was a fantastic game, maybe the best game I've seen this month. So we still got some basketball going on. I will have plays on the site later, but for the show today, I've got a prop involving the Boston Celtics.
Can I ask you real quick, the Crown thing, is that like, can we bet on that? Because I know there was some controversy yesterday morning or 2 days ago.
I think you've got to check which books you
Gotcha.
Typically use, but it's sponsored by Circa, so I know that for me, I can get those games in. I actually bet Colorado, lost that one yesterday personally, but I'm still betting some games in that. But you just got to be careful because these lineups are drastically different. It's like preseason NFL. You're not getting the lineups that you had 2 to 3 weeks ago.
Well, if you have a question about Crown or if you have a question about MLB or the Final Four, we've got the crew here. Mike McClure, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. I just wanted to shout out having babies in the chat. I heard the name was Denver. Maybe look at Denver Jones from Auburn. Maybe look at some player props there if you're coming in. Just that's what I thought immediately. So other than that, I'm fired up to be here as always. Sia, it's day baseball. It's day baseball with weather to think about. Those are the things that get me up in the morning. Sia.
Absolutely love the weather reports. AMags, your Yankees finally lost yesterday. Your reaction?
Yeah, tough loss, late grand slam there, but it did help Zach cash one of his plays on the D-backs money line. So at least somebody got a little bit of something off of it. But I love, to Mike's point there, how we all kind of think similarly, right? The baby has, the name Denver, and he's like looking for a bet to associate with it, right? If I go pump my gas and I hit like a certain number, I'm like, oh, I should play that number, right? So I think we all are pretty much the same people.
When you pump your gas, do you kind of like aim for like a number? It has to be like even, or it has to land on a lucky number or something. Is that just me that does that?
I like to get it even, but I will say if I'm not watching and I just see it, I'm just let it go and it's done. If that number just speaks to me, I'll run and grab a lotto ticket or something.
I love that. By the way, Landon Lai, I think is his name. Good call on the Kyle Tucker home run, Mike. Yeah, we've been giving out some home run props, and I don't know, all three of you do baseball. If there's ever a time, and we're going to eventually have a graphic up here with like kind of the model and what the model thinks in terms of home run value, things of that nature. And Mike, I know you put your top 10 on the show yesterday when you were in the chat. We're going to be talking home run props for sure on this show. If you all have some, absolutely let us know. But we're gonna deliver on that as well. Let's finally get to a pick though. AMags, we're gonna start with you. You've got a hitter prop.
Yeah, I'm bringing another hitter prop today. Look, O'Neal Cruz yesterday was near even money. I did think the price was good, but a little backdoor breaking ball in one of his final at-bats there, strikes out looking and does take the money from us. I have to at least say, first off, the price on him does look like it shows value again today. I didn't want to just go right back to him. And he faces Pepio. But Today, we're going with a different guy, another guy that I think we're going to hear his name a lot this year, CJ Abrams. We're going over 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. And truthfully, Abrams at the top of that lineup, I think you could play him at the -125, -135. I did see it's getting out towards -140 on some books. So that's probably going to be my limit. But shop around because I had, seen the -125 a little bit earlier today. And it's the lefty here. I don't really trust the starting pitcher for Toronto, Lucas. I forgot his first name here, but it really doesn't matter. Not a ton of MLB experience, a lot of AAA experience last few years. He hasn't been like particularly bad, I guess you would say, and especially like left-right hasn't been super bad. But I love the left-on-left for Abrams. It was almost 300 last year against lefties. And that left-on-left isn't always really thought of as an advantageous matchup, but you get Abrams last couple of nights. He's been hot as well, picking up a bunch of total bases. So I think that tonight, they got to kind of bounce back and get this one in Toronto at some way, somehow they have to get one here. I think Abrams, top of the lineup, is going to be able to do that. And the starter for Toronto likely isn't going to get all that deep into this game. We'll see what happens. But then you're going to be facing some bullpens, some matchups and whatnot. I like Abrams at this price to go over 1.5 tonight.
All right. I got a couple of follow-up questions for you, AMags, real quick. First of all, it's Easton Lucas for the Blue Jays. Jacob Couture, I think I'm pronouncing that right, says Jazz Chisholm home run is +650. AMags, do you have a response to that? And also, Joe Neuenfeld wants to know where you are.
Where I am, it's Antigua, beautiful little island. I actually inquired about this home up here yesterday. I wanted to see how much it would be, way out of my price range. But yeah, I will say with the question here on Jazz, I was looking at the splits for Gallon. Off the top of my head, I think it wasn't great left versus right. To take a lefty, I was actually looking at Bellinger. So, with that one, I guess have some fun at home run sprinkle, right? Why not have a little bit of fun? I mean, Jazz, I think I saw the numbers on Twitter. He was top 5 in WAR for all players since the trade deadline last year, above Juan Soto. So, I would have no problem tossing him in for a home run. I do see the O'Neill Cruz stolen base as well. I don't know if you were going to mention that, but O'Neill Cruz and Tatis stolen base. I mentioned it yesterday in my article about the Rays backstops and their trouble throwing runners out. Cruz, certainly somebody that we think is going to be challenging for the stolen base title. So I'd have no issue just tossing on his stolen base again.
All right. You guys have questions. These guys have answers. Mike McClure, there was somebody in the chat, and we celebrated this like 3 weeks ago when we did our futures show, you, me, AMags, and the sniper, who you'll start seeing next week on this show, everybody. But we talked about day baseball and how like this time of year is so cool because you guys step into the show. You don't always have a day baseball pick, but oftentimes we do. And you have a prop, but it involves your Kansas City Royals. I should say it's a Milwaukee Brewers player prop, but it involves the Kansas City Royals. And this game is at 1:10 Antigua time, which of course is Eastern Standard Time. So Mike McClure, give us your pitcher prop.
Yeah, it's going to be a little day baseball. How about Brewers pitcher Freddie Peralta? I went under 5.5 strikeouts, fading number 6. Really nice price point this morning, +133. It has moved a little bit since we posted that on SportsLine. I made the number all the way down to +112. So still a little bit of room left on it. But Freddie Peralta was very interesting in the first start. Obviously, it did not go well for him. But what's interesting to me about Freddie Peralta is how much he throws his fastball. He relies on his four-seam fastball a ton. Looking at 2024, threw it about 54% of the time, threw it 56% of the time in the opener. The thing that was interesting, though, last year, he threw the slider. That was his second most used pitch, around 22%. He threw the slider just twice in the first outing. That was interesting to me. And then the fact that you look at that fastball, looking back at last season, the expected weighted on base average and the actual both came to the same number at 330, which is worse than Major League Baseball average. That's not a good sign to me when that is the pitch that you lead with. Now, of course, that slider is nasty when he throws it and does have that strikeout upside. I'm concerned for him that he didn't even throw it in that opening start. But the matchup against the Kansas City Royals, number 3 in baseball in terms of not striking out last year, already with a strikeout rate under 20% to start the season here. This is a team that likes to play a little small ball, likes to put the baseball in play, and doesn't strike out a ton. So just considering the price point at +133, I liked going under here. As again, I thought it should be closer to +110.
All right, another big plus money play. We cashed his +145, his being Mike McClure's +145 yesterday, and that one Mike was pretty decisive. Going decisively the other way, Zach, something we brought up on the network show, I guess that would have been yesterday. Some of these teams with really horrible starts, and there was somebody in the chat, forgive me, I can't remember who it was, but saying, hey, my Braves are 0-6. Can I just ask you real quick, Zach, what's your panic meter on a team like the Braves? We talked also about Profar being suspended for what is it, 80 games. Panic meter on the Atlanta Braves, Zach.
It's starting to get a little bit more elevated than what we talked about yesterday, because another game, just one run. How many runs is it now over the last 4 games? Very, very minimal. So they have to start getting run production. Hopefully, after today, they get a day off, and they're going to face a home series against the Miami Marlins. So that'll be the tell. You can't beat the Marlins. If you lose 2 of those 3 games, then it's going to be way up there. But hopefully, maybe they get the win today, have a day off, and take care of the Marlins. We'll see. Ask me again next week.
Yeah, I mean, it's so early in the season, AMags, but you're starting to lose players. It's a tough division, or at least it feels to me like a pretty tough division. Panic meter, let's go 0 to 10 on the Atlanta Braves, with 10 being heavy panic.
6.5. It'll be 8.5 if they don't win the series against Marlins.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, Joe Neuenfeld says, I'll call it. Braves are done. I mean, listen, this is a 162-game season, guys. The season's way too long as it is. I think we can take, maybe the first 10 games and maybe these teams, these great teams with good pitching staffs can bounce back. But yeah, it's a tough start for the Braves. All right, we move on. Richard Pierre and Aaron Bailey giving shout outs to Val Kilmer, RIP Val Kilmer, in some, unbelievably epic and iconic movies. Passing away today at 65. All right, we got to transition from that to talking some BetMGM. Don't forget to make your predictions on the last 3 games of March matchups for a chance to win $250,000 on BetMGM. To enter, go to BetMGM, enter the March matchups, $250,000, pick them, free to play game. Make your picks, and when your picks win, you earn points for a shot to win a share of the $250,000 in bonus bets. All right, I got a golf matchup, and we've got a basketball pick as well. And we're going to be answering your questions at least for a couple of minutes. But I do want to give out a couple of SportsLine picks. We've got the Pistons team total under 108.5 from Matt Severance. That's at -120. And we've got from Tom Casale, Mackenzie Gore over 5.5 Ks at +100. Again, Mackenzie Gore over 5.5 Ks at +100. And the Detroit Pistons team total under 108.5 at -120. All right, I got to get to a quick golf matchup, some NBA, some of your MLB questions. We're going to do it right after this message from our partners. We're back on the Early Edge, brought to you by BetMGM, the sports book born in Vegas. I've got a golf matchup, and I'll tell you, anybody who's interested in golf, like Mike McClure and I are, and interested in terms of from a betting standpoint in particular, I'm going to be doing the live show with Rick Gehman right after this show on this channel. If you have a question about a matchup, if you have a question about an outright, if you have a question about the weather or DFS, you name it, we're going to answer it for you at 10:30 every single Wednesday. We do this 10:30 show. It's me and Rick Gehman. Again, we have some jump off topics, but really we're just answering your questions the entire time. And then we get out of the show once we run out of questions. So get in there at 10:30, hit the like button just like you do here, and ask us some golf questions. By the way, we're on the precipice of the Masters. So even if you're not a big golf enthusiast, usually people get going around the Masters. So maybe get in there early today for the Valero Texas Open. We'll be talking some Masters too on today's show as well. All right, Valero Texas Open round 1 matchup. I'm going to keep this really short. Bud Cauley -120 over Matt Fitzpatrick. You can find this one over at DK. If you have Bud Cauley in a 3-ball, let me know what the 3-ball is or what the matchup is that you have, and I will try to let you know if I like it. I do like Bud Cauley this week. He's one of my outrights. I might fade him in DFS because he's going to be a little popular, but really this play is a fade on Matt Fitzpatrick. I don't know what's going on with Matt Fitzpatrick, but it's been quite some time that he has been really bad across the board, particularly with the ball striking. Bud Cauley, on the other hand, really since last October has been very good in almost every department from a strokes gained metric standpoint. So really, I'm just fading. This is more of a fade on Matt Fitzpatrick than it is a play on Bud Cauley, but it works both ways because Bud Cauley's playing really well and Matt Fitzpatrick is playing really poorly. Now, it's only a round matchup. Can Matt Fitzpatrick put it together for one round? Yeah, it's possible, but I'm going to play Bud Cauley at -120 over Matt Fitzpatrick because he's playing so much better than he is. We move on from golf to the NBA. I'll look for some MLB questions also before we get out of here, but Zach, talk to us about Derek White.
Yeah, I'm isolating Derek White today over 15.5 points. Look at this Boston Celtics team, 9 straight wins. Their last 6 have been by double digits. So this has potential to be another blowout, especially Miami. They already ruled out Andrew Wiggins and Duncan Robinson yesterday. And that's big because you go back to their latest matchup on March 14th. The Heat struggled to scored just 91 points. And Wiggins was their leading scorer with 23 points. I also look at outside of Tatum, Derek White took the second most shots in that game. He took 18 shots. I think you also look at the case that even when the Celtics are in blowout matchups, his minutes stay elevated. He's going to still be on the floor 35, 36, 37 minutes. That's been a constant there in the Celtics stretch, who also have 3 key players questionable in Kristaps Porzingis, Jaylen Brown, Drew Holiday. Typically when the Celtics have players on their injury report, they could be all 3 that missed today, but certainly you expect 1 or 2 of those players to be out, which raises the value on White tonight. And I'm going over 15.5 points for Derek White.
All right, we're going over 15.5 for Derek White. I'm going to get to some baseball questions. There's a lot of Val Kilmer movies that I kind of forgot, like Batman Forever. People are mentioning Heat. Obviously, Tombstone and Top Gun, people are mentioning. Yeah, back in the day, Val Kilmer was in so many iconic movies. I think people forget. I think they think a Tombstone, they think a Top Gun, and they think we're done on the Val Kilmer movie experience. Let's see. Japan says, see, I got Bud Cauley over Chad Ramey. Oh, that's interesting. You know what? Chad Ramey is one of those guys that sometimes, at least back in the day, I liked as a first round guy, and then he would auto fade in the second and third round. Minus 150 is really expensive. I like it. I'm not running to bet that, but I do like it. It's obviously really pricey. Chad Ramey, he pops up once every 8 tournaments in the first round, so I don't think you're taking a huge chance here in laying that minus 150 on Bud Cauley. So I do like that. I don't know if I'm going to bet that myself, though. A couple of baseball questions. Mike, I'm going to go to you. Somebody was asking about the Pirates and the Rays under of 7. I know on SportsLine there are some picks, some contrarian picks. I think somebody has the Rays money line at plus money. But with all that said, do you like the under? And is there any angle in this game with some great pitchers on the mound?
Great pitchers on the mound. I still think it's a decent run scoring environment, so I'm not going to play it. If I were to play the under, it would be isolating it first 5.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't get to it. If you're getting 7.5 or so, then sure. But at 7, I think it's a pretty clear stay away on the full game total.
Okay, we've got a game at 12:40. AMags, it's Leiter versus Hunter Green. The total is 8.5, and the Rangers on the road are plus 120. We had a couple of questions on that game. Reds team total over 4.5 and Hunter Green over 6.5 Ks were the plays that people were endorsing in the chat. Do you like any of those, or is this an absolute stay away?
I truthfully don't have too much of an opinion on the strikeouts for Green. I've kind of been a little bit tepid on some of the strikeout stuff just yet. But I will say I posted the weather to someone's question for that game, the weather edge in the Discord there. So it does look like, at least from that perspective, the wind is pretty sustained, about 20 miles an hour. It looks like it is kind of cutting across the field, maybe not the best for us, but it does look like, at least from those weather edge numbers, that it could be a nice boost. But to Mike's point in the chat here, you don't have Corey Seager in the lineup. So just make sure you check these lineups out, for these day games. This is also the first game that we get in the daytime in Sacramento today. So, check out that kind of stuff. We'll see how that, how those environments play. And also, to Mike's point, agreed on the weather in Tampa. It looks hot, humid, dry.
All right. That A's game is at 3:35 this afternoon. So many afternoon games. Mike, is there, and I'm putting you on the spot here, Mike, just real quick. I know you kind of run your home run prop model every once in a while. Is there somebody, because of the weather perhaps, or because of the environment, the stadium, that kind of jumps out from a home run standpoint?
I would not say there's anyone jumping out. We're just not quite to that point in the season where weather is helping a ton in terms of hitting home runs. Maybe another 30 days will definitely be there. The thing that I would point out is kind of what AMags just talked about, the Tampa Bay Rays, in terms of where they're playing. It's not the Trop. And I think that some people don't necessarily still remember that when you see, we've got, the dome here, we've got Skeens and Pepio on the mound under 7, where it's not the same thing. So that's something to really, really keep in mind when you're looking at a team like that. Other game that I think is a little sketchy or very sketchy is going to be the St. Louis game. So the Angels in St. Louis, that game, I think it probably, I played the under on Kikuchi's strikeouts. I think that it ultimately gets postponed or delayed. So I wouldn't be surprised. Like if you want to back St. Louis, I think it's okay. I think we could see a lineup release from the Angels that just simply doesn't have Trout in it, knowing that this game's potentially not going to happen. But we could be looking at very long delays there. If they do play, high variance environment for sure. Just crazy wind, 25 miles per hour.
And that game went into extras in a pretty big way yesterday as well, with the Angels coming back and winning that game. AMags, go ahead.
I just wanted to just kind of toss it back to Mike real quick with a question. So what I had read, in some of the MLB stuff for Steinbrenner Field where the Rays play is that, folks really weren't sure exactly how it would play, but they see it almost as like Yankee Stadium of the South, right? It's Yankee Stadium dimensions, but you're in hotter, humid weather. So I know we don't have all the numbers, but from Mike's perspective, is that kind of how he sees it playing, as almost exactly like Yankee Stadium, but just in a hotter, more humid area?
Definitely. Yeah. Definitely going to play more hitter friendly than their baseline. But yeah, I expect it to be one of the better parks in Major League Baseball this year.
All right. Aaron Bailey confirming it's pretty bad up in St. Louis as well. Okay. Angels are too good, says Ramon Prado. Okay. We need to slow down there. Zach, any of this conversation, was there anything you needed to comment on with any of these games that we talked about or anything in the chat?
Just with yesterday's show, I touched on Sutter Health Park and what's going on there in Sacramento. I agree with Mike. It's been crazy so far in the first two games in that series, but it's going to get in that hot range maybe in about 30 days. And that's when I'm going to be really curious to see how that ballpark plays.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think we can get to the recap screen now. Let's take a look at our picks for today. My pick is for tomorrow morning. And by the way, there was a Bud Cauley 3-ball that a couple of you mentioned that I think included Chad Ramey and somebody else, Ben Silverman, and Bud Cauley was plus 105. I don't mind that one at all. I think Silverman is actually a pretty good course fit, but he's not playing well. So I think Bud Cauley at a plus number is pretty good in that 3-ball, everybody. CJ Abrams, again, Bud Cauley minus 120 over Matt Fitzpatrick. That's my play for tomorrow morning. CJ Abrams over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs, minus 125. That's from AMags. Derek White over 15.5 points at minus 120. That's from Zack Cimini. And Freddie Peralta under 5.5 Ks at plus 133 is from Mike McClure. We've got two SportsLine picks. Detroit Pistons team total under 108.5 at minus 120. And we've got Mackenzie Gore over 5.5 Ks at even money. Matt Severance and Tom Casale on those plays. AMags in the chat, dishing out knowledge. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in 7 minutes for the Valero Texas Open live chat. Ask us any questions you want. We'll be talking about the tournament from every single angle. And I will say that if I didn't get to any of your questions, don't forget the SportsLine Discord. There's so many. I mean, I assume I got 1,000, 2,000 people in there. I'm really not sure. I'll have Larry confirm that. But if you have questions that are lingering, get in the Discord. Ask guys like Tom Casale, who's always in there. AMags is in there sometimes. We got Mike and Zach. Sometimes I'm in there answering golf questions and things of that nature. So get into the SportsLine Discord. And if you're not a member of SportsLine, make sure you join up. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel. That'll do it for now. On behalf of AMags in Antigua, Zach in Vegas, Mike is in Kansas, and we've got Ben in Chicago on the 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s, and we got Denver Blake. Denver Blake, welcome to the world. Wishing Dustin Wiles and his family very, very well. Thank you for being in here. Scott Davis, KC3, Aaron Bailey, Stephen Cook. Everybody, thanks for being in here. Thanks for hitting the like button. We're almost at 200 again. Really appreciate that. We'll see you in 5 minutes maybe, but we'll definitely see you right here at 10 o'clock in the morning because we do it every single Monday through Friday at 10 o'clock with our whole family. And of course, that family includes you. Ladies and gentlemen, we rest our case.